My wife and I had been married for 2 years, and at the time, we were both in our early 20s. She had a strong desire for motherhood, often sending me messages about it multiple times a day. Her relentless TikTok mentality started to influence our relationship as she began sending me information about open marriages and podcasts discussing the topic. After numerous lengthy conversations where she passionately advocated for exploring an open marriage, I reluctantly agreed. She was insistent that we should try this lifestyle before settling down and having children. We decided to establish some ground rules to make this experiment work. No unprotected intimacy. No intimate encounters in our house, and no overnight stays. If either of us had intimacy relations with someone else, no details were to be shared, and we would refrain from physical contact with each other for 30 days. Before any intimacy between us resumed, we both had to undergo a doctor's visit and receive a clean bill of health. With these rules in place, we embarked on the journey of an open marriage. My wife began going on dates on Friday nights, which worked well for us since I often worked late and got home around 10 p.m. In the beginning, it seemed like a fun adventure. When she returned from her dates, she would excitedly recount what had happened, and we would often become intimate. These were purely dates, with no intimacy activities involved. I also decided to give it a shot and went on 3 dates myself. Unfortunately, each of them ended in a similar way. Once the women I met discovered I was married and in an open relationship, they lost interest, and our connections fizzled out. However, things took a painful turn one Friday night when my wife didn't return home until around 3 in the morning. She made a casual remark about being too sore and tired for any physical intimacy, and I couldn't help but notice hickey marks on her chest and thighs. It was a blow to my emotions, and I felt hurt and upset by this discovery. The following Monday or Tuesday, she attempted to initiate physical intimacy with me, but I reminded her of rule number 3, the 30-day waiting period after sexual encounters with others. She was shocked and asked if I was serious. My response was unwavering. I was deadly serious. This situation became a pattern in our relationship. She would go out on Friday nights, have her fun, and then spend the rest of the week trying to convince me to change rule number 3. To me, it felt like she had placed me on a shelf while she enjoyed her new relationship energy. I started distancing myself from her, spending more time working, being out of the house, and becoming more physically active to deal with the emotional turmoil. 5 months of feeling like I was merely an afterthought in our marriage had taken its toll. I could no longer see a compelling reason to stay in this relationship. I felt like I was sacrificing my own happiness so that she could be content in her new situation, and I was running out of things to give. Despite everything, up to this point, she had not broken any of the established boundaries. However, every time I suggested that she should take a step back from her new partner, she brushed it off as an overreaction, insisting that it was all just some harmless fun. The strain on our relationship was becoming unbearable, and I knew that something had to change. As time went on, our relationship continued to unravel. It felt like my concerns were dismissed, with my wife insisting that I was overreacting and that her new relationship was just a bit of harmless fun. Our 4th wedding anniversary was a painful turning point. I had taken the day off work to make her dinner and clean the house, hoping to celebrate the special occasion. When she got home from work, she quickly showered and dressed up, telling me she was going to a bar to see a local band and asking me not to wait up. Little did I know, she had completely forgotten about our anniversary. The devastation I felt when I woke up the next morning at 9 and she still hadn't returned was indescribable. This was a clear violation of our second boundary, no sleeping over. I sent her a simple text, expressing my disappointment and letting her know that she had broken our agreed-upon rule. I also told her I was done. Her response came at 11:30 when she started calling and apologizing, claiming that she had merely closed her eyes for a second and accidentally passed out. She insisted it was an accident and that it would never happen again. But I was unwilling to engage in any discussion about it, which only seemed to awaken her from the fog she had been in. She showed up at my workplace just before we opened, creating a scene in front of my colleagues and the owners. It took considerable effort, but I managed to calm her down enough for her to leave. We agreed to discuss the situation on Sunday. When I got home from work that night, she once again tried to initiate physical intimacy, but I reminded her of rule number 3. It was then that she told me she would no longer see her new partner and wanted to close the marriage, focusing on reconnecting with me. It seemed that she had a change of heart, perhaps realizing her mistake when she received my text and her new partner made fun of her. She made daily efforts to be intimate with me, but it was clear that our connection had been irreparably damaged. I no longer desired her in the same way, and she had become more of a roommate than a partner. As the 30-day waiting period passed, she went to the doctor for the required checkup, confirming that she was free of diseases. However, she had one more shocking announcement to make: she was pregnant. Her announcement was met with an unexpected response from me. I told her that I hoped she and her new partner would be happy together. Her confusion quickly turned into tears, and a few days later, she sent her new partner a text telling him about the pregnancy. His response was callous, suggesting she pass it off as my child. It was then that I decided to file for divorce. Despite her desperate attempts to change my mind, making promises, begging, pleading, and offering everything under the sun to fix our relationship, I had reached a point of no return. I found myself stuck living with her until our lease was up, and our interactions became strained. She continued to try to be intimate with me, but I consistently turned her down. My resentment grew, much like her growing baby bump. It was a painful chapter in our lives, and I couldn't help but hope that we would both find a way to move forward separately, leaving behind the hurt and disappointment of our failed open marriage. 3 weeks ago, an already turbulent situation took yet another turn. My wife came into my room one evening, bearing pizza for dinner. She began the conversation by sharing her excitement about being pregnant and how it had left her feeling super excited all the time. Once again, she attempted to initiate physical intimacy with me. By this point, I had run out of patience and politeness. I couldn't bear to go through with it anymore, and I bluntly told her that I wasn't interested, suggesting that she try Tinder or some other avenue where she might find someone willing. She left my room in tears. Around the same time, we had our first divorce hearing, and the judge ordered us to attend 6 weeks of marriage counseling. It felt like a pointless exercise, almost like a meet and greet session where they talked to us separately to gather our sides of the story. All I wanted was for this ordeal to be over so that we could finally move on with our lives. My birthday was approaching, and on the Friday before it, she asked me to spend it with her to celebrate. I declined her invitation, unable to muster any enthusiasm for the idea. She kept pushing the subject, and I eventually lost my temper. I told her that I no longer wasted special occasions on her, referencing our disastrous 4th anniversary celebration when she had gone out to be with someone else. Leaving her in tears in the kitchen, I headed to work, informing her that I would see her on Monday for our court-ordered counseling session. Monday morning, I arrived at the counseling session, but she never showed up. I tried to reach her, her friends, and her parents, but there was no response. It turned out she had been arrested on Sunday morning for driving under the influence and reckless endangerment. In a surprising turn of events, I offered my house as a place for her and her family to stay. I even had a couch available at a friend's house. My lawyer swiftly acted to expedite the divorce proceedings, and the divorce was finalized this past Friday. Yesterday, I helped pack some of her belongings, and today, I'm assisting them in loading a U-Haul they've rented. She is scheduled to be released tomorrow, and her family plans to take her back home with them. She wants to see me, but I can't shake the feeling that any further contact would only be detrimental for both of us. It's been an emotionally exhausting chapter in our lives, marked by turmoil and unfortunate decisions, and it's clear that we both need to find a way to move on separately and begin the process of healing and rebuilding our lives. If you liked the story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories.
Let's start. A few weeks ago, an unexpected twist shook the foundation of my relationship with Maria, my high school sweetheart and wife of many years. In a routine moment, I needed to use her laptop, only to be confronted with a dating website on the screen. The gravity of the situation struck me as I realized Maria had been engaged in conversations with 3 different men, having even met up with 2 of them. Stunned and seeking evidence, I discreetly took pictures with my phone before deciding to seek refuge at my best friend's place. Curiosity led me to investigate further, and one of the men seemed oddly familiar. It didn't take long to discover that his son was a patient at the pediatrician's office where Maria worked as a receptionist. This raised concerns, as professional boundaries dictate that she should not be engaging with patients' families outside of the workplace. Fueled by a mix of emotions, I decided to address the issue head-on. Taking a strategic approach, I contacted Maria's boss to schedule a meeting, seeking resolution and understanding. Simultaneously, I reached out to the wife of the man whose son was a patient at the pediatrician's office. Thankfully, she was receptive and agreed to meet to discuss the unsettling situation. Not stopping there, I delved into the lives of the other 2 men. One had a girlfriend, whom I messaged, but my attempts were met with a prompt block. The other man was single, leaving me with limited options for connecting with someone close to him. In my quest for truth and resolution, I went to the workplace of the first guy's girlfriend to find out that he had intercepted the message intended for her. Recognizing the misunderstanding, I apologized, and she graciously accepted, expressing gratitude for the honesty. Taking advantage of the situation, I asked if she would be willing to collaborate on a plan to surprise Maria, and she agreed. A few days later, I met with the wife of the other man, revealing the unsettling truth about her husband. Despite his denial, she had already confronted him and decided on a divorce. In a mix of emotions, I offered my congratulations, acknowledging the difficult path she was embarking on. At home, I confronted Maria with all the texts and details of her cheating. She outright denied everything. I decided to go silent in the matter. I packed my bags and left the house. I now wanted to put her in a spot where she cannot escape. Maria, fearing that her time is up, kept calling me. Initially, I chose to ignore her persistent calls, but my oldest daughter intervened, urging me to meet with Maria to hear her side of the story. Reluctantly, I agreed to the meeting. It is my turn now. I called the other 2 women and asked to meet at the coffee shop where I am supposed to meet Maria. They arrived 15 minutes before the time, and I was waiting for them. As we sat together, Maria walked in, demanding an explanation. Before I could utter a word, the guy's wife erupted. She hurled the most colorful and amazing words at Maria, and there was a point where I found it hard to hold on to my laughter. She accused Maria of breaking her family. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the other woman lunged at Maria. It was an absolute chaos. 2 women beating up my wife, and here I am watching the action from the front row. A man walked up and asked what is going on. My wife is getting beat up by 2 women. He looked at me with a puzzled look. I looked at him and shook my head and said, "Nah, I am not stopping them. She had it coming." The shop manager with 2 other women stopped the chaos and separated the woman. Maria got up all shaken, and she was missing a big patch of hair on her head. She burst into tears and ran out. A few days later, my oldest daughter informed me that Maria was seeking a divorce. In response, I contacted a lawyer, and the legal process has begun. I also spoke with Maria's boss, providing evidence of her involvement with a patient's father. Despite my intentions to protect the truth, my oldest daughter blamed me for getting her mom fired. I explained the situation, revealing the false narrative Maria had constructed for the kids, who believed I had left without reason. I granted them the freedom to choose whether or not to continue talking to their mom. Amidst this turmoil, one of the couples affected by Maria's actions is attempting to work through their problems, while the other is heading for a divorce. Surprisingly, the husband from the latter couple and I are exploring a connection, curious to see if it leads anywhere. Not only did my children react to the revelation, but Maria's sister also reached out, having heard a similar story. I chose honesty, revealing the truth, and now she, too, is upset with Maria. It's a challenging time, especially since I always liked her. We've decided to sell the house and split the costs in the divorce. Maria opposed this decision, but my lawyer argued for it. Despite the challenges, I can't deny a sense of vindication in uncovering the truth and taking steps to move forward. Now for the second story. I've been with my wife since we were both 14, and we got married at 23. We recently celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary in June. The topic of kids came up during a conversation a couple of nights ago, and things took an unexpected turn when my wife, who had been drinking, mentioned a pregnancy scare in 2017. This caught me off guard because the last scare we had was back in 2012 when we were both 21. I questioned her about it, and she tried to brush it off as a drunken slip of the tongue. However, I know her well, and I could tell something was amiss. I pressed her to tell me what she meant about the scare in 2017. As she tried to play it off again, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. I took her hand and insisted that she tell me the truth. That's when she broke down, crying as if something devastating had happened. She confessed that in 2017, during a holiday with her friends, she met some guys, and on the 6th day of the trip, they went to one of the guys' places to continue hanging out. Her friends ended up having sex with some of the guys, but she claimed to have stayed firm about being married. However, she admitted that one guy, who was charming and persuasive, managed to convince her to have some fun. She ended up at a guy's place, thousands of miles away from me. He convinced her that I would never find out, and this was her chance to experience something different from the only person she had ever slept with me. She initially resisted, claiming she felt guilty, but at some point, she stopped thinking about us and went along with it. They slept together multiple times during the trip. Her friends apparently didn't ask or say anything until the last day when they reassured her that they wouldn't reveal what happened, insisting that what happens here stays here. She broke down, feeling like she had a full-on mental breakdown. After the trip, she called me, said she needed some time, and went to her mother's place for a few weeks. During that time, she got tested and debated whether to confess. Eventually, she decided to put it behind her and strive to be a better, faithful wife. She distanced herself from those friends, and I noticed she made an effort to be a good wife and lover. I'm in a total daze right now. The revelation about my wife's past actions has left me feeling lost and overwhelmed. I spent an hour pacing around the work parking lot, and even my boss noticed something was off, telling me to head home if I needed to. My mind is racing, and I can't shake the feeling that everything I thought I knew about our relationship is now in question. I thought her recent efforts were just a sign that she missed me, but now it feels like she's been overcompensating all this time. She's trying to talk to me, crying a lot, acting like she's the one hurt by my silence. It's frustrating because I can't escape the fact that she was with another man, multiple times, and I would never have known if not for that chance conversation. I find myself wondering if there were other times she might have cheated, other scares with guys, and what she really did during all those moments she spent with friends. It's like I'm reevaluating our entire 14 years together. I still love her deeply, but at the same time, the sight of her makes me want to explode with anger. I hate that I'm feeling this way, torn between love and rage, wanting to scream and punch something. I'm at a complete loss about what I should do next.
Dear listener, if you have reached this far, please click on the subscribe button. It will be a great help.